No sport does hype like boxing. Barely a year goes by without there being a fight of the century or a super rumble. So when the master of hype, Don King, set about organising a heavyweight clash between Ali and Frazier in 1975, the rest of the world awaited a classic.
Ow! Ow!
Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier fought 3 times, any one of which could be considered a classic. The first, in 1971, was won by Frazier. The second was Ali's. The third was to be the decider.
The rivalry between Ali and Frazier is complicated. And you had Ali was the showman, the extrovert.
He used to talk to opponents and he'd run them down before he got in the ring with them.
This fight just may end before the first round.
He could be very cruel, and he was extremely cruel to Joe Frazier. He used to call him a gorilla, called him an Uncle Tom, which was even worse, and Frazier was not an Uncle Tom. The reason he called him an Uncle Tom because he had a white management. Joe really got annoyed with him.
This explosive clash of personalities meant that the thriller in Manila had all the makings of an epic.
This was an event where the whole sporting world sat and watched. It was a massive event.
It's 15 rounds, and here is round 1.
Once the bell sounds, they just stand toe to toe. Not because that's the way they like to fight, it's because at that stage in their respective careers, that was the only way they knew how to fight.
They were both shot fighters by then, and they just couldn't get out of the way of each other.
So Ali's moving a little bit more, but he's taking more risks. He's trying a bit of rope-a-dope. That's not working. Frazier's adjusting, catching him to the body.
Ali has realized that he can't necessarily dance away from Joe Frazier anymore, and he's really going to have to slug it out with him. And that's exactly what they do.
Moving into the 5th round, the fighting took on a new brutality.
It's swaying this way, it's swaying that way. Ali looks like he's out on his legs. Frazier looks like he's out on his legs.
Good punches by Frazier now as he's got Ali on the rope.
Every round, every punch, every second, it's painful, it's hurtful, it's spiteful.
The 8th round began, and the battering continued.
And when you looked at the shots that the two of them threw and they took, it was a brutal, brutal, hard fight.
And I was there, and it was, you know, even someone like me who's covered boxing for 40 years, I was turning my head away at times because it was so brutal.
A big rally by Ali.
When you have fights like that, I mean, that takes something out of you, and that was a punishing fight. All fighters have got so many fights in them, you know.
By round 12, the pummeling was beginning to have an effect on both fighters. Frazier was developing a huge swelling over his left eye that would soon blind him, but still, they fought on.
Joe Frazier can't see anymore because his eye has been cut open, and Ali realizes this, and so is hitting him from the blind side.
Ali ready to open up with those combinations.
When you see in a fighter's eyes that he's done, which you can see when you're up close in a fighter, and then he comes out and keeps fighting, there's something in that that just transcends. You're talking about life and death.
Eventually, before the final round, Frazier's trainer Eddie Futch decided he'd seen enough.
Eddie Futch wants to stop the fight, and Frazier says no.
Meanwhile, in the other corner, Ali was telling his trainer Angelo Dundee that he wanted to quit. But Frazier's trainer had already made up his mind.
Eddie Futch takes a long, hard look at him, and then he utters one of boxing's greatest sentences. He says, "Sit down, son. It's all over. Nobody will ever forget what you did here today.
And stopped the fight. He stopped the fight. He wouldn't let him go out for the last round.
Eddie feared that if he went another 3 minutes, he may have died. That's no exaggeration.
I think it's going to be over. It's all over.
After 3 fights on a total of 41 epic rounds, Ali had come through on top, but it was closer than anybody had ever imagined.
There's 10-20 seconds separating the winner of the Thriller in Manila. It's the 10 or 20 seconds that separate Eddie Futch's decision and Angelo Dundee's indecision. If Angelo Dundee acts first, then I'm convinced history is different.